of the bear. How about dropping everything and going to the Bieszczady Mountains? Can be heard here and there. Somewhere out there in the big cities, in the big blocks of flats, people sometimes talk to each other about how they have had enough of the city and they dream of getting away, of going to the Bieszczady Mountains. Winter, my dears, behind me is an ocean of forests, clearings, mountains, valleys, and there are animals living in these forests. Of course, herbivores such as roe deer, red deer, or the dignified bison, but predators also live in these forests. From the smallest ones like wildcats to lynxes, wolves, and what attracts us the most here? Bears, the dangerous Bieszczady bears. When the vast majority of the bears in the Bieszczady and Carpathian mountains are sleeping somewhere cozily in ready-made lairs, but before they can get to sleep they are forced to look for this cozy place. And it is worth knowing how such a lair is created. Nothing happens by accident here. Usually they are old trees, in this case an old fir tree, well over 100 years old, which was once damaged somewhere here in the hollow part. First, insects penetrate the wood, followed by birds that peck at it, infecting it with fungi and causing its destruction. This takes years. It takes 50, 70, sometimes 80 years for the inside to decay and for the completely decomposed wood to fall out. After some time, a bear looking for a cozy den will come and use its paw, and with its massive claws will tear out the rest of the dead matter from inside the ancient fir tree, as well as stones and soil, somewhere here from the root influxes, and prepare a cozy, large, comfortable dwelling for the winter. And here, in a place where the Solinka and Wetlinka rivers murmur below, because this is where they meet, what could be better than falling asleep listening to the sound of the Bieszczady rivers? It is worth knowing that in winter, in January or early February, a new generation of bears is born in the Bieszczady Mountains. Inside the warm, cozy lairs, the female bears give birth to 1 to 4 cubs. These little ones, weighing just over 200 grams, naked and blind, snuggle up in their mother's warm fur after birth, suckle on her breasts, and feed on her nutritious milk, which has a fat content of around 38%. That's how quickly they grow, or rather, how quickly they swell. What happens inside the lair? Well, unfortunately, we don't know if they all survive or if only some of the newborn bears survive. It's one of nature's hidden secrets. We later see them when they are already grown up, coming out of the lair, such cuddly, nice teddy bears, running after the mother bear, but we do not know what happened before. Well, in the human world, once a person has obtained or earned their flat or built a house, they become attached to that place and would like to spend almost their entire life there, unless fate throws them somewhere else and they have to change their flat. In the world of bears, it is a little different. Here, there are many occasions when they find their home, their place to hibernate. They do not get attached in such a way that they think about returning here in a year's time, that they might improve, fix, or renovate something here. Somewhere, by chance, he will find another place to sleep, and there he may spend the next generation, or perhaps spend the winter with these year-old cubs. Sometimes children and sometimes adults too sing a song about how the old bear sleeps soundly, and it seems to us, or maybe it really feels like that when the bear lies down in its lair, all you can hear is the snoring or purring of the old bear, like in the song or the little bear cubs or the she-bear. It is not exactly as we imagine it. It is just a slowing down of this life cycle. There are observations that a bear leans out, sticking its head out of the lair. We have observations that a female bear, even when enchanted by the newly fallen first snow, tries to catch these flying snowflakes on its tongue. There are observations that a female bear will lick the water running down the bark of a fir tree. So we have the idea that this dream is so hard and long. Not at all. Bears just lurking in these lodges have to sleep or wait out this difficult winter period. They don't go to sleep because their ears, paws or noses are freezing, but because this is the period when the food base is limited for them. We can easily recognize tracks in the snow. In this case, we have the imprint or track of the female bear's hind paw. A long, large track of a mature bear, quite large. And somewhere over there, the track of the front paw, or the imprint of the front paw, specifically the front left paw. But there are also tracks of those little ones, one-year-old bear cubs. Two paws placed side by side do not even make half the track of a mature bear. Let's not follow these tracks. Let's not check where they went. Let's retreat, because it could be dangerous for us. Tracks or traces, an eternal dilemma. Tracks are everything that remains after a paw, hoof or trotter has been imprinted, while traces are places, as in this case, of feeding, resting or playing. Because it is difficult to say whether this piece of deer bone was used for food or more as an element of play. I think it was more of a plaything because there is not much you can do with a white bone like this. These birds were feeding here, looking for something to eat, and then they set off across part of the meadow, probably at sunrise, to look at the beautiful panorama of the Bieszczady Mountains and hid somewhere in a grove. Dear friends, remember that not all bears fall asleep. There are some, like this gentleman here, for example, who, while crossing this cliff, slid down on his butt towards this road to walk along a road that had already been cleared of snow. Remember that if you go to the Bieszczady Mountains in winter and you're walking along a narrow, winding, snow-covered forest road, you might encounter a bear, even in winter. When there is still snow somewhere in the high Bieszczady Mountains, on the northern slopes of the mountain pastures, lower down in the valleys of the Bieszczady rivers, in beech forests or in riparian forests by the rivers, we can already see beautiful fields of wild garlic. I haven't seen bears in the fields of wild garlic, but they are definitely here, perhaps under the cover of night, eating 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 leaves, because it is a very powerful medicinal plant. Spring is in full swing. Everything is blooming, everything is growing, everything is coming to life. The wild blackthorn bushes are in full bloom, or rather going wild. I hope that most of these beautiful flowers will one day turn into fruit, and in early autumn, when they ripen, they will be a special delicacy for the bears of the Bieszczady Mountains. They are now looking for food and feed on all kinds of weeds and grass. They are happy to eat anything green that contains vitamins, but blackthorn is their favorite delicacy at the beginning of autumn. The last remnants of snow have melted on the slopes of the Bieszczady Mountains. Somewhere in the secluded forests of the Bieszczady Mountains, little bears who were born in January and February at different times are coming out for their first short walks. They are now 1 month old, some 1.5 months old, some 2 months old, so they are getting to know the world. Under the tender eye of their mother, they go out for 20 minutes, sometimes for half an hour, and get to know the world around the lair. They do not stray far, they are very obedient, because their safety also depends on it. There are different paths in life. Sometimes they are like ours, simple, asphalted, fast-moving roads on which we move very quickly. But sometimes we come across a stony, bumpy road full of twists and turns. It is similar in the world of bears, especially young bears, who have to learn how to overcome the obstacles that await them in life. Sometimes these obstacles are among the rocks, cliffs and slopes, which they have to overcome safely, imitating their mother and walking in such a way that they do not accidentally fall far down. Where there are some fallen trees near a bear lair, it is the perfect place for the little bears to practice their first moves. They imitate their mother by climbing on these fallen logs, sharpening their claws and using them to tear off pieces of bark. The mother does this to look for insect larvae under the bark, and the cubs, imitating their mother, do not yet know why they are doing it, but they also, imitating her, do the same movements. They tear off the bark, climb, and train their sense of balance. When the little bears leave their cozy lair, sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for half an hour or even an hour, there are many dangers waiting for them in this outside world. And it is the mother's job to teach them various things that will help them survive this difficult time for baby bears. One of the first skills they learn is that of climbing thin, tall trees, which, somewhere in their crowns, will provide them with shelter from adult obese males, because these male bears pose a threat to the baby bears. Ponds, pools, marshes, places where the water is practically there all year round, are places where the mother bear, already guiding her cubs into adulthood, comes here. She drinks the water, sometimes cools her body, and the little ones still enjoy their childhood playing. They obviously observe what the mother bear does and try to drink the water, enter the water and bathe. It is a learning process, all under the watchful eye of Mother Bear. What do baby bears feed on? Simple and clear, mother's milk. They also feed on their mother's milk for the first 3 to 4 months because they do not accept any other food. They pretend, watch their mother, sometimes try to pick a flower or catch a butterfly somewhere, but it's just child play. They will start to eat solid food when the first wild strawberries or raspberries ripen. This is the time when the bear cubs start to eat on their own. When the little bears leave the safe, cozy lair and follow the mother bear into adulthood, they are unaware of the many dangers that lie in wait for them. It happens that a mature adult male can kill little bear cubs. It also happens that a pack of wolves surrounds a bear family and the mother bear cannot cope and is unable to defend them. Bears crossing public roads are also often at risk from cars speeding along them. Our carelessness, thoughtlessness, sometimes untidiness, leaving things lying around, or piling up food waste, may not pose a great threat to adult bears, but if such spoiled food is consumed by the little ones, it can even be fatal. Our mountain rivers and larger streams in the Bieszczady Mountains are a big threat to the little bears. They are usually lazy and shallow for most of the year, but in spring, maybe April, May, they rise incredibly. It is quite a feat for little bears to cross such a river. They haven't been to the swimming pool, they haven't learnt to swim, and when the mother bear decides that the river or wide stream has to be crossed at such a high water level, when the little ones enter the water stressed, it can sometimes happen that 1 or 2 of them cannot overcome this obstacle. In April and May, these little bears follow their mother towards adulthood. They no longer return to the lair even when it is cold and raining. During the first weeks of their journey, they follow one another closely, staying within a meter of their mother. But everything changes with time. The bear cubs grow, mature, gain weight, become more courageous and start to leave their mother behind more and more often, and later on, staying behind or wandering off to the side. But they are still under the watchful eye of their mother. After a few months, they become completely mischievous. These bears sometimes stay a few hundred meters behind or to the side, leaving their mother for several minutes or even hours, but they always come back. But the time will come when the mother will have to interrupt this idyll, this idyllic scene, and will decide that these bear cubs, or this pair or 2 or 3 bear cubs, must start living on their own. She is then unpleasant and aggressive, but there is no other way to cut the umbilical cord. Holidays. In the world of bears, there are no holidays because they have a very important role to fulfill, passing on their genes during the time of bear love. The rutting season is in full swing for the bears. During this period, old males appear who have been hiding somewhere for many months and do not show themselves in open spaces. During this period, they can be seen in the meadows and clearings by the forest. This beautiful spectacle of the Bieszczady nature takes place among the flowers and the singing of corncrakes and other birds. In the human world, it is quite complicated because when it comes to love and falling in love, we exchange messages, letters, multimedia messages, text messages, postcards, and other stuff. In the world of bears, however, it is very, very simple. The time of love comes, and an obese, mature bear finds a lone tree somewhere along a path or a trail and writes his text message right here. He leaves his shaggy hair stuck to the resin and marks a younger spruce somewhere around here with his claws, as high as he can reach. A young bear comes along, a younger male looks at the place and thinks, "Oh my goodness, a powerful guy was here. I'm going back and I'm not going that way." The female will walk by, see the black shaggy stuff stuck to the resin, smell it, feel it, and leave her scent. When the old bear returns later that morning, he will read the young female's information and follow her somewhere far up the mountain, hoping something will come of it. When darkness falls, strange sounds can be heard somewhere on the edge of the old forests. Groaning, purring, barking, whining. Sometimes one wonders what is going on in the forest, and there is a beautiful natural theatre performance taking place. Bear loving. The old, powerful males suddenly appear out of nowhere, looking for a beautiful young female bear, and they mate, because it is a normal, natural thing to do. The male is powerful, twice as heavy as the female. But somehow they manage. When night falls, they will leave the forest for a meadow, for open space. Female bears are very amorous, as it turns out. They can mate with several males during the rutting season, so it's no surprise that later 3 bear cubs are born in the lair. Scientists will examine them, and it turns out that each one can have a different daddy. Remember that this is a dangerous period, so don't go on expeditions or venture into large forest complexes in the evening, at night or at dusk, because this is when the mating season is taking place and the males are very aroused and dangerous. Don't encourage anyone. I also don't suggest such trips in the dark forest like I did here. I know that it is safe here at the moment, but you, not knowing the forest, can expose yourself to great danger. A beautiful, dark night in the Bieszczady Mountains is behind us. The sun has risen, has come out from behind the Post-rut mountain range, has gilded the flowery meadows, but the night was not peaceful. Oh, many things happened here during the night. Now that the sun is rising, the meadows are empty, people are becoming active, while the bears are looking for peace and quiet. That is, they are hiding somewhere in those distant sanctuaries, the wildest places. And they need to rest, because another night and another round of meetings and searching for partners is ahead of them. The point is to search, find and fulfill this biological requirement, because passing on life is an important part of nature. To have the honor of participating in reproduction, you have to reach maturity. In the world of bears, females mature a little faster, at the age of 3 or 4, males a year or 2 later. This does not mean that the young males who have already reached sexual maturity immediately take part in reproduction. Sometimes they have to fight or defeat the old male who rules a given area. Generally, bears do not get in each other's way and stick to their territory boundaries. But when the time of great loving comes, with a head that is preoccupied with something completely different, a moment of carelessness and you are in foreign territory. Sometimes you can get hit on the head, back or paws. A forest swamp, a pool, a wallow, variously named, eternal water. It does not dry up even in the greatest prolonged heat. This water has always been here, is here, and will hopefully be here forever. This is where the European bisons come to drink this water when it is clean. The Ural owl comes here, which can also bathe in this clean water. Martens and other animals come here, but mostly bears, especially during the rutting season. We have observed that a tired, old male bear wounded in a fight comes here to cool down in the cold water, cooling his body, heated by passion, to what we think is the temperature of the sun. He puts his wounded paws in the mud and takes it, knowing that it brings relief and improves his health. We go to spa resorts, and bears have their forest spas right here. The beginning of summer. Wild bird cherries are ripening, Or rather, they have already ripened. As the name suggests, they are a blessing for birds, but not only for them, because bears also enjoy these sweet and sometimes bitter, tangy fruits. They come to places like this, to the cherry orchards, because they know they will find this food that is full of vitamins, which they need a lot of right now during the rutting season. Some bears search, they struggle, they search among these herbs, among this undergrowth for these fruits. But why bother when they can climb up high into the crown and feast on these red fruits, break these branches, shake them down? There are enough for those under the trees. And those bears that can climb high feast on the sweetest ones, because somewhere high up close to the sky are the sweetest cherries on those cherry trees. It is such a blessing in the animal world, in the bear world. There is so much to eat around which encourages eating, because it is not only wild cherries, but raspberries, blueberries, wild strawberries, and soon the blackberries will start to grow, and after a while the old wild orchards of the Bieszczady Mountains will burst with fruit. In another 2 or 3 weeks, the time of the bears' loving will be over, and it will all be over. The males will go their separate ways, hiding far, far away somewhere on the slopes of the unhurried mountain range, in old stands of trees where they will feed undisturbed, while the females will be carrying new life under their hearts. And so it will continue until winter, when the next generation of small Bieszczady bears will be born. On the old borders of former fields, the hawthorn berries have ripened. They are also part of a bear's diet, but not only hawthorns, but also hazelnuts or beech nuts, found somewhere under the canopy of old Bieszczady beeches. And hawthorn is tasty and very calorific and full of vitamins. In spring, the blackthorn tree delighted us with its white blossom, and today it is autumn and time for us to enjoy its fruit. Blackthorn fruit can be bitter, sweet or sour for humans, but it doesn't matter to a bear. What matters is that it is there to bring joy at this time of year. The Bieszczady Mountains are also a land of many deserted villages. When the people left, nature took over the area. Deer, roe deer and wild boar appeared, and these animals were followed by predators, wolves, and after some time, bears. People rarely come here. If there is a tourist attraction, they are more frequent. They are during the day, and when dusk falls, when night comes, wild animals come down to these valleys because the old trees are still bearing fruit here. Apple, pear and plum trees. And that makes them come down here, feed under the cover of night, and then go back to their lairs for a day's rest when the sun goes down. Every now and then, the old wild orchards in the Bieszczady Mountains produce a bumper crop. Tens of kilograms of apples lie on the ground, while others still hang on the branches of old apple trees. In the late afternoon, evening, or under the cover of night, bears also come to these places. They sit or even lie down in these places and devour these apples at will. Bears do not only eat apples that have previously fallen to the ground. We all know that bears are very good at climbing trees. This is also the case here. They know that the apples growing high up in the treetops are sweeter, closer to the sun, closer to the sky. Sometimes they are so tasty that it is difficult to describe their flavor. There are more and more bears in the Bieszczady Mountains, and more traces of their existence. It is a common thing to come across a bear poo on many a road, track, path or trail in the Bieszczady Mountains. Something that sometimes resembles a big apple pie, abandoned somewhere on a forest path. Undigested apple pieces, some leftover beech nuts or rosehip seeds. Such a poo, the composition of this poo, shows the diet of the bears. We know very well that bears eat fruit, berries, and they don't despise mushrooms or the fruit of various wild forest trees. But bears, as large predators, also love and even eat meat. Sometimes fresher, sometimes less so. The bear also does not despise carrion, despite being quite lazy by nature when it comes to hunting. He is not an outstanding hunter. It does not happen often, but if the need arises, he can also do the job. He can hunt wild boar, deer, or even bison in the local conditions. Such hunts or taking prey from wolf packs usually take place in the area of the Bieszczady rivers, such as the San, Solinka, Wetlinka, or even the Choczewka. This is where you can come across the most wolf victims. Bears can work perfectly with flocks of ravens, which are the first to survey the surroundings of our rivers and every little detail, an element of the fact that something happened under the cover of night, that an animal was killed, informing other predators. Of course, the bear is not stupid either and roams these forest depths along the rivers, listening to the cawing of ravens and heading to the place from which they take off. It often happens that it can chase away a pack of wolves or other predators to take possession of the carrion lying on the bank of the Bieszczady River. During my work, during my professional career, I have observed that the stinkier the carcass, the more favorable it was for the bears. Especially in late autumn, before bears go into hibernation, such carcasses were often the scene of bear activity. Bears can wallow in it, and in our opinion, it gives them a kind of stench or odor, but for them it is a wonderful perfume. The more they absorb this forest scent, the less detectable they think they are to other forest creatures. I have never seen them, but I would like to, and at the same time I am a little afraid of them. And sometimes when I walk through the forest alone, I look around carefully because they are known to be dangerous animals. I saw bear tracks by the river by the San. I was with a group of other people at the time, but we were all a little alert. We looked around because the bear could have appeared at any moment. We have been coming to the Bieszczady Mountains for 30 years, several times a year. We have explored the Bieszczady Mountains quite well, both on marked and sometimes unmarked trails. There is always some anxiety, considering the number of media reports of all kinds about the presence of bears in the Bieszczady Mountains. We always wonder how to behave, and I don't think we have a good solution here. On mountain trails, roads and paths, it can happen that a bear suddenly appears somewhere. In such situations, we should remember not to panic, because the worst thing would be to start running away at that moment. This would inevitably cause the bear to chase us. Let's stay calm, stay where we are, and God forbid, let's not get any closer with our phone, or even closer with our camera to get a great shot, because it could be our last. I read or heard somewhere on the internet that you should try not to show fear. I don't know if that's possible. The bear is a wild animal and should hide somewhere in the bushes or undergrowth when it sees a human, but not everyone will behave this way. There will be times when a bear may come towards us. Let's remember once again not to run away and panic, to stop and not to make any nervous movements. And if it does happen that it moves in our direction and we see that it is an attack, we should quickly roll on the ground. We need to press our chest firmly against the ground and cover our head with anything. A jacket, backpack, plastic bag, whatever we have at hand. And then we just wait to see what happens next. I met one once while fishing on the San. On the other side of the river, a bear came out of the water, probably bathing somewhere. I stayed there for the night and I was a little scared, so I made a fire so as not to attract it. We go mushroom picking often, we have such nice places. We used to have access to some really cool mushroom spots, but now I don't even go there because I'm simply too scared. So we either go there with my wife or with friends, and we behave in a relatively loud way. We talk, I tap on the trees, or something with sticks so as not to surprise the animal. Places such as tourist shelters, rest areas along hiking trails, or even bus stops are places where people most often leave some kind of waste after their visit. At campfires, there are some leftovers from barbecues. In bus shelters, we throw various packaging into the bins, often after sweets. Let's remember that this is very tempting for bears. People leave, they leave a place after camping, and they leave their food waste. When darkness falls, bears come to this place. It is usually very good that they come under the cover of night. But it can happen that a bear will misjudge the time and come to a place where a family with children is camping, which can lead to an accident. In early spring, around 12:30 at night, I was woken up by a loud bang. There had been previous incidents here on our property, so I got up, took a halogen torch and shone it around, because the bear was usually interested in the bin or the composter in the garden. I shone the torch on the bins and saw a large she-bear with 2 small cubs. She didn't react at all, so I opened the window and started shouting to scare her away. They ran towards the road and the stream, and I went back to the bedroom, but after 15 minutes, the same noise started again. This situation repeated itself for about 2 hours. I recorded them freely from the window. I shouted because they didn't react anymore later on. The little bears, like their mum, were interested in what was in the bins. They sorted through all the rubbish. The little bears were most interested in the kajmak tin. I have the impression that the population of these bears has increased significantly in the last 10 to 15 years. Anyway, we also have a house near Rymanów. Apparently they are already visiting those forests there. Bears have also been seen in the vicinity of Jaśliska. There are simply more and more of them. It was May 2023. I go to the stable, open it, look, and there is a mess. There was a metal net and a door, and he tore it all up and ate 18 rabbits on the spot. And the following year, it was the same thing. I put up another, stronger net, and he tore it all down as well and ate 10 rabbits. He even broke a sweet cherry for dessert. Now I have secured the area by putting up a prison grill at the back, and so far I have been left in peace. The apiary was fenced off with wooden panels, which the bear can walk through like paper, as it were, and it is not an obstacle for him. The sight I saw in the morning also made me cry. The beehives were overturned, broken, the frames scattered within a radius of 10, maybe 15 meters outside the apiary. The bear came at the same time every day, around 9 p.m. He was able to take the body 20 to 30 meters from the apiary to eat the bee venom in peace, because honey is not the main reason why bears visit apiaries. I was told that the only effective protection against bears is to install an electric fence, like the one here, up to 1 meter high, every 20 centimeters from the ground. And indeed, this type of protection already works and is effective. I'll say this, partly I am jealous, partly I am not, that you can be outside this big world, that you live here alone. Probably not many would dare to live somewhere as remote as here, because you are alone. Of course, with your favorite cats around, you can't really say you're alone. But I can imagine if a bear came at night and scratched on the door, you wouldn't get up and open it, would you? I'd go out and ask what he wanted. And that's it? Yes. If he wanted something, for example, if he was a teddy bear, I have a jar of honey. Maybe you want some honey. You see, man, you are old and you still live by those fairy tales. Excuse me, but why are they attacking apiaries? Are they after the wax, the insects, the bees, this? Why are they destroying the honeycombs? My friend, the bear goes to the apiary not for honey, not for ripe bees, not for wax, but for the bee larvae. He wants the protein that is fixed there in those little cells, but the bear doesn't have time to pull out each larva individually with his claws. He only eats the whole slice, but he eats it with honey, so nobody talks about the larvae, they all talk about the honey. And honey is just an addition. It's like saying bee brood with honey, not honey with bee brood. Is there a difference? Some people eat cottage cheese. It also has a lot of protein, but they like it with sugar, for example, because it tastes better. And a bear may eat larvae, insects too, but somehow it tastes better if it takes a little bit of that whole slice of honey. All right, Józio, I won't convince you. You stick to your views on upbringing, youth and childhood, that bears like honey. I will say that bears like bee larvae.
Pod okno chaty Józka w łopience przyczłapał niedźwiedź już nieco stary. W gawrze swej spał, błogo tam miał, lecz się wybudził na dźwięk gitary. Józek po pracy w piecu rozpali, przy stole zasiadł i książkę czyta. Niedźwiedź zaś w okno zastukał głośno. Spojrzał po izbie i tak zapytał.
Wszyscy mówią, że niedźwiedzie nie grają nic.
Everyone says that bears don't play or sing, but I personally don't believe it. Apparently, Casual heard bears playing and singing somewhere in the lair. But in fact, bears are a great inspiration for the culture and art of the Bieszczady Mountains, because it's sculpture, painting, all kinds of art, books, but above all music, which is close to my heart.
I nuty wcinał na śniadanie. Józek ze strachu.
Recently I was inspired by the bear of Łopienka, and a song is being written about him, which will tell the story of a man and a bear, inextricably linked.
I ruszył w tany i w takt otupa. Cała się trzęsła józka chałupa. Spiętrzona fala solinką pomyka. Niedźwiedzia z Bieszczad porwała muzyka.
Niedźwiedź od wieków był, właściwie jest wciąż.
For centuries the bear has been, and still is, an inspiration for many creators, artists, cartoonists, painters, sculptors, photographers, filmmakers, and who knows what else. I don't know all these art forms, but the bear is depicted in many different ways. From a cute little teddy bear to a dangerous beast. And some portray it better, others worse. Sometimes this bear resembles a bear, sometimes it deviates in form and shape from this prototype, but it has always been an inspiration for many, many years. Children grow up with them in fairy tales, and these bears frighten adults in horror movies, but the important thing is that they are here, that they are part of our Polish, our Bieszczady nature.
Palcami biega. Oj, bym posłuchał i coś zaśpiewał. Misiu muzykę lubił nad spaniem i nuty wcinał